also let you know that we are interactive today. Again, I'm Andy Baskin on Twitter, Andy_Baskin on Twitter. He is Mike Cairns 5, and we go back to Connor Kiesel, who is in our newsroom, and that's actually Eric the referee, isn't it? Look, why do you want so much television time? Why do you keep doing that?
With a face this good, you got to go to it multiple times.
That's Mama's face. Mama loves that face.
All right, Connor, how are you this morning? What's the word on social media after that Browns' big 37-24 win last night over the Buffalo Bills?
Lots of good things. People excited to see a win again in first place. How about that? Who would have predicted that 5 weeks into the season? But, of course, a win doesn't come without drama in Cleveland. Still questions now about who's going to be the quarterback. Is Brian Hoyer going to get healthy, and is Brandon Whedon the guy to lead this team? He looked like it last night at times, so we're going to talk about that. Who do you think should be the quarterback if Hoyer is healthy? That's obviously a big question mark, but, you know, you can tweet at us, use the hashtag #DawgsOnTheRun. You can interact, be part of the show. And, guys, I wore my brown today, but I couldn't find my brown pants in the drawer. I mean, I wanted to go with the all-brown look like the Browns last night.
All right, what are you wearing? We're hearing that your T-shirt says something. What's your T-shirt?
It's the C. It's like the Superman C.
We'll stand up so we can see it. This is
interactive.
All right, for anybody who's listening on board, it's like the Superman C with the C, and GV Artwork did that. They've got some really cool shirts. So, all right, well, Connor, thank you for keeping us abreast on what's going on in the world of social media. We'll come back to you in a little bit. Thanks, Connor.
See you guys.
All right, again, we invite you to participate in this program as we talk about what happened to the Browns yesterday. There are so many ways to get involved. Many of you are watching on Newsnet 5 right now. But the big thing about this show, it is a mobile cast. And really, that's what we're all about, because we want you to participate in this. You can be anywhere. You can be eating breakfast anywhere around the world right now, and you can be sitting down. I'm at the diner. I want to hear about the Browns game, so I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it there. But we also invite you to listen to it in your car on the way to work. So if you're getting dressed right now and you're thinking, wow, I really want to talk about this Browns game. I know I'm excited. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. I probably got home at 2 o'clock in the morning and really haven't had a chance to hear any reaction to what happened to last night's game. I want you to take your mobile phone, go to your car, and link it into your Bluetooth, or just take your USB and stick it in the USB port there, or just put it on speakerphone. You can do that too, and just set it down right next to you. Don't look at it. That's our public service message that we give to you every week.
Don't Skype and drive.
Yeah, don't Skype and drive. Friends don't let friends Skype and drive. So that's what we'll tell you. 216-431-3820 is the number to call in, or hit us on Twitter at Andy_Baskin or Mike Cairns 5. Again, if you want to Skype in, and really that's what we like to do. We like to see you for the folks that are watching on Newsnet 5 and on Newsnet5.com, our mobile app. Dogs on the Run. It's right here. It's so easy. Dogs on the Run. And if you like it, we even have a song for you that we'll play.
You can sing along.
All right, so we'll play that for you if you Skype in. You really don't want to hear
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We really don't want that, and we really don't want to do that to you. Because if you cross the line, we got to go.
We haven't had to throw the buzz on anybody.
No,
now,
or I mean, worst case scenario, Eric the referee has to throw the flag at you. That's our first flag.
Nice. That's not a bad toss. Good job.
I caught that on the fly.
That's not a bad toss for 7:05 Eastern time.
All right, it is 7:05, and that means we're going to talk to Josh Cribbs here in about a minute. So we're going to get in touch with our man in the know, our third member of this show, Josh Cribbs, the former Cleveland Brown and All-Pro, and probably headed to the Hall of Fame at some point too, for what he was able to do on the field. We're like 6 minutes into the show. I still haven't heard what you thought about the game last night.
It was an amazing game because it was for the first time you saw both sides of the football come together. It was a complete game. Normally the defense, and this was the talk last night when I was in the locker room after the game, talking to the defense about how the offense was able to pick them up when they were in trouble because they got gouged. You saw Spiller score in that second of the third quarter, and then the offense came back, put up points. It was a game of runs last night. Bills came out first. Browns made a run to take the lead. Then the Bills came back, took the lead, and then the Browns offense came back and won the football game. But the defense threw the knockout punch with T.J. Ward. So it was a complete win, which we have not seen through the first 5 weeks here, and you got to give credit to both sides of the football.
All right, I'll take a look at last night's game and break it down like this. Last night's game was a microcosm of the entire season so far in just 5 games. If you go back and look at week 1 and week 2, the Browns were 0-2. In this game, they were down 10-0. Now all of a sudden you trade Trent Richardson after 2 weeks, and you're like, oh no, there's no hope for the season, and all of a sudden Brian Hoyer's your quarterback. And now last night, Hoyer gets hurt in the first quarter. So now you're down 10-0, and you're without your starting quarterback, who's played very well for the last 2 games, and that they've been able to pull off the victory. So the Browns rallied last night, and I think it was the same feeling that they had when this whole town went south on them and said, oh no, Trent Richardson's gone. We've got Brian Hoyer as our starting quarterback. Season's lost. Let's start talking about the draft. In fact, on Twitter last night, people were already talking about the draft as soon as Brian Hoyer was hurt. But lo and behold, Brandon Weeden, who became the second-string quarterback just yesterday afternoon at practice, where they said, okay, his thumb's okay. Rob Chudzinski said he went through this progression throughout the week where he really wasn't able to throw the ball. He hasn't done it much for the last 2 weeks, but he finally took the glove off yesterday at practice and was throwing with just a little bit of tape on it. So that's where you got to yesterday. Now fans are out there watching this game yesterday. You see Brian Hoyer leave the game. We'll find out about his MRI today. I know everyone hopes that he's okay, but there is a significant difference, Mike, between watching Brian Hoyer run this team and Brandon Weeden. And I will cut Brandon Weeden a little slack. I mean, he hasn't really thrown the ball in 2 weeks, and he did come out rusty last night.
Well, the biggest difference is that the release of the football. In Brian Hoyer, he gets the quick release. He has the quick drop. He knows where to put the ball in that quick, hurry-up tempo offense. Brandon Weeden still has not gotten the feel of that, and that was one of the things he was supposed to work on. And one of the things he told us even in the preseason, he said, I've got to get rid of the ball quicker, especially in Norv Turner's offense. He still struggles with that, and you saw him take some sacks and the pressure, because you can't sit in the pocket for 4 seconds in the National Football League. You better be out. That ball better be out of your hand in about 2.5, 3 seconds, especially if you're not in the shotgun. And Brandon Weeden still has problems with that. Hoyer is the guy in that quick target offense. But one of the things I also noticed last night, when they got down in the red zone, they tried to pound the football in with Willis McGahee. You notice with Brian Hoyer, they threw touchdown passes inside the 5-yard line. There's that touch pass 2 weeks in a row to Jordan Cameron in the same left corner of the end zone. That didn't exist last night. There was one pass that Weeden tried to make to Jordan Cameron that was knocked down. It was defended inside the 5. That, to me, says that the difference between the two quarterbacks is the timing of the release of the football. And as you know, Andy, in the NFL, that's a big deal. You cannot hold that ball back there.
Even on the big plays last night, Brandon Weeden was still throwing behind his receivers. All right, let's get some insight onto yesterday's game when we turn to one of our good friends, Kenny Roda from KennyRoda.com. Also our third amigo on Ohio State football. We'll see him tomorrow night on News Channel 5 immediately following the Ohio State Northwestern game with Matt Wilhelm. Kenny and I, we did it last week. We'll do it again this week. But, Kenny, your assessment of what the Browns were able to do when it looked like the chips were down.
It was all about the Benjamins last night for me, guys. The turning point in that game was Travis Benjamin on special teams. I thought his first punt return, what was it, 57, 59 yards, kind of woke everybody up and got them some momentum. And then, of course, he returns the other punt, 79 yards, I think it was. So when you get a big game from your special teams, it can really energize you and energize the crowd. And even though Hoyer was the big story going down early with that knee injury and Weeden having to come in, I thought it was Travis Benjamin who provided the spark for that team to get back in that game, because they were down 10-0 at that point, and he gave them the spark that they needed.
Kenny, too, one of the big things, and we talked a little bit about how complete a win this was. The defense has been so good. They finally gave up their first 100-yard rusher of the year. But when the defense was getting gouged, the offense was able to step up, put points on the board, put the team back in the game, give the team the lead, then hand it back over to the defense. This is something that we haven't seen in a long time here, that the offense actually set up the defense to finish the football game. And no surprise, this is kind of how it's supposed to work.
You're supposed to have an offense that's going to be able to put points on the board and take some pressure off the defense, because think about it. If you're the defense, it's like a pitcher going out there and thinking, I've got to not give up any runs whatsoever and pitch 9 innings and hope we win 1-0. Well, yesterday the offense provided some points finally. As I mentioned, the special teams, they scored in all 3 phases, guys, on a punt return, on a defensive pick 6 to seal the deal, and 2 offensive touchdowns, 1 on the ground, their first of the year, and 1 through the air. So it was a complete game. Now, granted, it helped that the tool kid who played like a tool was the quarterback when E.J. Manuel went down. But you know what? It happened to both teams. They both lost their starting quarterback. So good for the Browns that they had the better backup quarterback who actually was the starter at the beginning of the season, and that paid dividends on the offensive side.
All right, what went through your mind and through your stomach when Brian Hoyer left and Brandon Weeden came back out and we saw the same old for the first couple series?
You know what, guys? I wanted to see what Hoyer looked like with Josh Gordon. In fairness to him, he did not have Josh Gordon the first 2 games, and they were 0-2, and Whedon struggled. Hoyer comes back. He provided a spark, obviously, but he had Josh Gordon to go to, and so I wanted to see how Whedon did yesterday with Josh Gordon. He was behind on some throws, as you guys were talking about. The timing was a little off, but again, he hadn't worked with the first team in getting the reps during practice now for quite some time. Hadn't thrown the ball really on a consistent basis for quite some time because of that thumb injury. So I thought he did a decent job yesterday coming in cold off the bench. I mean, think about this, guys. There was a debate as to whether who would be the backup quarterback. Was it going to be Whedon or was it going to be Jason Campbell, of all people? And we remember his performance from earlier this year, not too good. So I thought Whedon did a good enough job yesterday. He got the win. Didn't we say that about Hoyer? A couple weeks ago, was terrible for most of the second half, but when the game was on the line, he led them down the field and led them to the game-winning touchdown. Got to give credit to Brandon Whedon. While he still has room to grow, I thought he did a nice job coming in off the bench.
Kenny, once Brian Hoyer went down, the rumbling of Josh Freeman, we got to get Josh Freeman in here, with Brandon Whedon coming off the thumb injury. Fair or not fair to go there that early we know how Browns fans can panic at the drop of a hat, but warranted or unwarranted?
Well, we know that the front office does not really like Brandon Whedon. Let's be honest. Mike Lombardi and Joe Banner are not huge Brandon Whedon fans. And I don't know if Whedon did enough last night to win them over and say, all right, if Hoyer is down for an extended period of time, Brandon Whedon's our guy. You've got to think that came up when Hoyer went down. All right, if he's lost, who can we go get? Who is available? Or are we happy with the 2 guys that we currently have? And you've got to believe that, that they're going to explore every possible option out there to see what they can do to make this football team better. And, of course, with Josh being released, you might have to look in that direction if you don't believe in Brandon Whedon.
All right, let's just we'll wrap it up here, and then we're going to come back to you in a little bit later in this hour. If you had to pick one quarterback, if for some reason Brian Hoyer can't come back, is there a free agent out there, a guy you might pick other than maybe Josh Freeman? Or if you'll take Freeman, take Freeman. But who would you pick, Kenny?
I'm not a big Josh Freeman fan. I would stick with Brandon Whedon at this point in the season. Get another game under his belt after having reps with the ones in practice, having Josh Gordon back. Finally got some semblance of a running game with Willis McGahee yesterday. I would stick with Brandon Whedon. I'm not a Freeman fan, and so I don't know of the other quarterbacks that are still available, on the free agent list, but they're out there for a reason. They weren't good enough to make anybody's roster, and we're 4 or 5 weeks into the season. So I would stick with Brandon Whedon.
All right, Kenny, we will talk to you in a little bit. Thank you very much. We'll join you about a half hour from now. Kenny
Sounds
Roda,
good,
thank
guys.
you very much. Outstanding. Again, we're